Hopkins, oh my goodness. Did he catch that? Did he catch that? That's the touchdown catch of the year if that's good.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
I think Carson Wentz throws for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in his return against the Indianapolis Colts to lead the Eagles to victory on Sunday.
You were just talking about him, Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, one of my favorite players of all time. Not only is he going to break the passing yard record this week, he only needs 201 yards to do it. He's going to obliterate it.
Welcome to 4th and Long, your weekly NFL talk show here on Com Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Jason Marcus and DJ Bauer.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of 4th and Long here on Com Radio. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, DJ Bauer and Francesco DeFalco. DJ, how you doing today?
Pretty good. Excited to talk some football. We're halfway there.
DJ, always excited to talk some football. I'm always excited to talk to you as well. Francesco, how about yourself? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It was an interesting week to be a wide receiver. I think we should talk about that.
I think we should, too. That's a pretty less than subtle way of transitioning to our first major story of the day, which, of course, is the trades that happened. Obviously, last night at 4 p.m. was the trade deadline for the NFL, meaning no other trades can be occur this year, but that's okay because we had a lot of good ones happen anyway. And the first one I want to talk about here is probably the biggest one, I'd argue, in which the Philadelphia Eagles sent a third-round pick to the Detroit Lions to acquire veteran wide receiver Golden Tate. DJ, what was your reaction to this move?
I was a little bit surprised just because it seems like an odd move for the Lions. Matthew Stafford has been the cornerstone of that franchise on the offense for years. And, it's nice to have him weapons like Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones, but I think I'd argue that Golden Tate was the best of them. So maybe a third-round pick is lowballing him a little bit. I'm not sure what value the Eagles get from that. But I think for the Eagles, it's definitely a very valuable addition because you have Alshon Jeffrey, who's back now. You've got one of the best tight ends in the league in Zach Ertz. And you've got some other good guys on there like Nelson Aguilar. But then you add a guy like Golden Tate. You're just stacked there. The passing game should be fine in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it was a really good move by Philadelphia. Obviously, the offense up to this point had been fairly inconsistent. A lot of issues with wide receivers dropping the ball. Carson's doing everything he can to, get them in a winning position. And unfortunately, no matter how good your quarterback is, if you don't have people around him to help make plays, it's very difficult to win. What about you, Francesco? What was your reaction to the Golden Tate trade?
I think one thing I noticed about the trade deadline is teams are either really desperate or not very desperate at all. I'm actually kind of surprised that we even saw a third get dealt in this trade deadline. I thought that it was either going to be, a first for something or, a really low pick for something. I think Golden Tate's veteran status is what drove his price down that much. I agree that he was probably the better of the wide receivers to get dealt. Monday, Tuesday? And I think that he's going to help the Eagles a lot. And I think the Eagles should be happy that they got him, especially for a third-rounder.
So let me clarify. So are you saying you think Golden Tate was worth more than a third-round pick that he was getting for him, or you think the third-round pick was too much that the Eagles gave up? Where did you stand on this?
I think a third is good. I think a second would have been good also. But then again, with the trade, especially getting close to the trade deadline, teams are either rushing to get their guys, so they're going to be giving up first for them, or, teams are just willing to take it easy and just see how the rest of the season goes. So that's when you see the lower picks get dealt. So I'm surprised that we saw a third get dealt, but I would put Golden Tate around a third or a second.
I really like the move by the Eagles here. Obviously they've been struggling offensively. You now bring in a guy who leads the league in yards after catch, so he's a playmaker. He's a reliable pass catcher. He's going to be on the other side of Alshon Jeffrey, so it's going to help both guys. Jeffrey has been the only person on that offense since he's returned from injury to really contribute. And obviously now they're both going to get more targets. It's going to open up the run game that has been virtually non-existent for the Eagles over the past couple weeks because now defenders, you have to take into consideration that, you can't just double cover Alshon Jeffrey every week now. You got to take in consideration to Golden Tate on the other side as well. And the other thing I really like about Golden Tate is he's played in the slot in Detroit, but he played on the outside in Seattle. He can do everything. You can mix up the schemes. You also have Nelson Aguilar in there, who's also done both. Obviously, he's more of a slot guy, I would say. So you're going to see probably a lot more Golden Tate on the outside. But when you switch him up, he's just got versatility and reliability, and it's also going to open up the run game because now you're going to see less defenders in the box because you can't just focus on stopping Josh Adams because you have to put more people on Tate. So I really like the move, especially with the Eagles having 2 second-round picks in this next year's draft. Giving up a third doesn't really hurt them that much because essentially they have that second round pick that acts as a third, just a lot higher. So I really like the move by the Eagles here. But the other big move within wide receivers in the NFL, we saw a trade between the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans. Denver Broncos to ship longtime wide receiver Demaryius Thomas to the Houston Texans for a 4th and a 7th round pick. DJ, I want to go to you. What was your reaction to this trade, and how do you think it compares to the Golden Tate move?
I think it is a bit of a sad goodbye for Demaryius Thomas, considering he's been one of the best receivers in maybe Broncos history. But this is one of those trades where I think everybody wins. I don't think that happens too often in the NFL, but I think this is a trade where everybody wins. Because, Will Fuller gets hurt in Houston. He's out for the rest of the year, so Hopkins is their main pass catcher. They need another guy. They turn to the Broncos. They get Demaryius Thomas, who is a very talented receiver. Obviously doesn't have the same step that he once had, but I still think that he's a very good receiver, like a good second option. So getting him from Denver, that helps Thomas too, because he thrived at his best whenever Peyton Manning was throwing him the ball. And I love you, Case Keenum, but you're no Peyton Manning. As for Deshaun Watson, he might get there someday. So, that helps out. Not only does it help out the Houston Texans offense, but it also helps out Thomas. And as for the Broncos, that opens the door for guys that they picked up in the draft this year, like Cortland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton. A lot of young talent, guys who are ready to break through, so I'm excited to see where they go.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you brought up Cortland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton here, because surely with the trade to get Thomas to Houston, those two guys are going to pick up a lot more snaps and receptions in the Broncos offense, so it should be exciting to see those two young guys here. But Francesco, I want to go to you on this one here. Now, I think the move here, really, the message that's communicated to me, at least from the Houston perspective, is they think they can win the Super Bowl now. This is an aggressive move by the Texans to basically say, we lost Will Fuller, but we're going to bring in another wide receiver too because we think we have the talent to do it now. Do you agree with that statement, or do you think this was done for a different reason?
I pretty much agree. I think that this is a lot different than the Golden Tate trade in the sense that it's a lot more clear-cut. The Eagles, they got Golden Tate because they are trying to find some way, to make it out the East and save their season, and so they're trying to give Carson Wentz more weapons. This one's pretty obvious. The Houston Texans, they lost their second receiver, and then they got a guy to fill in for him this season, while the AFC South isn't the most competitive right now. So I think they definitely don't want the season to go to waste, and they want to make sure that they can find a way to get out of it. I don't think that he's a long-term option for the Texans at all, and I think that this is, while they're going to use him going forward, I think that this is more of just a right-now trade.
Oh, so I completely disagree. I think it's the absolute inverse. I think the trade for Golden Tate is a right-now trade because the Eagles are trying to win a second Super Bowl. And I think the trade for Demaryius Thomas is a long-term option. Demaryius Thomas still has one more year left on his contract, so you assume he's going to be a Texan for the end of the season as well as next. Golden Tate's a free agent at the end of this, so whether he produces with the Eagles will determine whether or not he stays with them. He's going to get a lot of the money in the offseason regardless. But DJ, I want to go to you. Speaking from the Broncos' perspective, why did they decide now to make this move? Why did they feel that it was right? And do you think the Broncos are looking to a Super Bowl this year, or are they looking more to rebuild?
They're not looking for a Super Bowl. Just plain and simple, they don't have a good enough record. They're in a tough division with the Chiefs and the Chargers. I think they're starting to realize that their season's a little bit shot. So planning for the future is the best thing they can do at this point. And I like the move of trading a guy. Unfortunately, it's a guy that's had a good history in Denver like Demaryius Thomas. But you get a 4th and a 7th rounder. That's a pretty good value for a guy like Thomas who's a bit washed up. So I actually really like what the Broncos did with this move here.
All right, we're going to take our first break, but when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about all the massive trades that happened this week in the NFL. You are listening to 4th and Long on Com Radio, and we will be right back.
You're listening to 4th and Long with Jason Marcus and DJ Bauer here on Com Radio.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Fourth and Long on Com Radio. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, DJ Bauer and Francesco DeFalco. We are wrapping up talking about the big trades that happened this week in the NFL, but before we can do that, we have to talk about some of the other trades that happened before this week. Obviously, Amari Cooper was a big name, traded from the Oakland Raiders to the Dallas Cowboys for a first-round pick. Before the break, we were talking about the Golden Tate and Demaryius Thomas trades here. DJ, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Tell me how you think these three trades stack up against each other.
All right. Well, I told you that the trade I like best is the Broncos-Texans trade. I think that both teams are winners in that case. As for the Eagles-Lions trade, I think that's a little bit more uneven, just because I think Golden Tate is one of the better young receivers in the NFL. He's got veteran experience. So I like the Eagles to be winners on that one. Though if Detroit, is looking for more depth in the future, then perhaps that'll turn out well for them. Obviously, the losers in this case are the Cowboys. I mean, Golden Tate, I would argue, is a better receiver than Amari Cooper.
I'd agree.
And they got him for a third. Cowboys got Amari Cooper for a first-round pick. I remember reading on Reddit that John Gruden wanted to get a first-round pick for Amari Cooper. I thought, John Gruden, you're crazy. And then good old Jerry Jones went out and did what Jerry Jones does best.
It's a good thing that there's at least one other owner crazier than John Gruden. Or not, Gruden's not even an owner, but Jerry Jones is crazy.
That's Jones's problem, is that he tries to act like a general manager. He's the owner.
He is the general manager.
Well,
so.
I know, but he's the owner first. He should be the owner first. He needs other guys to consult, maybe appoint a general manager. I'm sorry, Jerry, you're losing it.
Yeah. Francesco, what about you? Obviously, so with Golden Tate, 30-year-old wide receiver, leads the league in yak, third-round pick. Demaryius Thomas, 30-year-old wide receiver, has had a great career so far, fourth and a seventh. And then you get Amari Cooper, who's 24 years old, so significantly younger than the other two, but hasn't had a great season since really his rookie year, and he's worth a first-round pick. Is that fair, or what is your take on all three of these trades?
I would have to agree with DJ. I think that the winners in this would probably be between the Texans and the Broncos. I mean, it was pretty fair. The Broncos are going to need to start saving up in capital as they start getting more guys. This gives Thomas a chance to go out and play with a much better quarterback and hopefully, have some good games in the tail end of his career. And while a lot of people like to send heat towards the Cowboys for giving up a first for Amari Cooper, this situation isn't that great for Cooper either, because he, has had a great season. He hasn't been doing too well lately. And now there's all this pressure on the Cowboys organization to have him go out there and prove that he was worth that pick. And that's a lot of pressure on him, especially with competing for the Redskins to make it out of the East. They're going to be looking at him to be the answer. And I think that that's a little too much pressure for someone who hasn't been playing that well lately. So while the Cowboys organization is definitely my losers, I would say that Cooper isn't that well off either.
All right, now transitioning to the defensive players that were shipped off to new homes this past week. The Jacksonville Jaguars sent defensive end Dante Fowler Jr. to the Los Angeles Rams for a third-round pick. DJ, I've always been under the assumption that you don't trade with the best team in football and make them better. But obviously the Jaguars felt like this was the right fit. Rams get another versatile piece for that already intimidating defensive line. What was your reaction to this trade?
I thought it was one of the more interesting trades, just because, one of the things you mentioned is that the Rams are the best team in football, and with this trade, they're getting better. At least for this year, they are. I think this is a very much boom or bust team here for the Rams. They realize how much talent they have, and they know that it's not going to stay because they just don't have the money to do it. So might as well get all the people that you can, go for this incredible Super Bowl run, and, they've got a good chance to do it. They're the only undefeated team left. As for the Jaguars, I don't think the loss of Dante Fowler is a major hit because they've still got a lot of talent on that defense. I mean, you got guys like Telvin Smith and Malik Jackson and the likes. So I think it's an okay trade, especially considering they get a 2019 third-round pick and then a 2020 fifth-round pick on top of that. So that's more depth for this team in the future. I'm beginning to wonder if the Jaguars are starting to think that maybe last year's team was a fluke.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems that way. I can't think of, and maybe, Francesco, you have something you can answer to this, but if you're the Jaguars, why ship Fowler off at this point? You're coming off a year where you reached the AFC Championship off of your outstanding defense, and now you take a guy who, is there someone underneath him in the depth chart that they really like? Is this a cap issue? I don't understand the move by the Jaguars here to ship off Fowler. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I think that it's pretty interesting also because, while they have an incredibly deep defensive line, the loss of Fowler isn't going to hurt them that much, but it's just the fact that they, coming off an amazing season last year, they've been struggling so far early on, and now here they are getting rid of guys instead of gaining guys. So, while Fowler isn't the biggest loss, it's the fact that they were only making moves to acquire some picks that's interesting. I'm starting to think that they might know a little something that we don't, and know that they're really not as good as they let on last season and early on this season.
That's a really good point here, because I think that really gets to the core issue that I have with this trade is I feel like the Jaguars should be the team that's being aggressive in getting players, not being the team that's aggressive in giving away players here. Obviously, they have a really talented roster here, so the move to me doesn't make sense from Jacksonville's perspective. Obviously, from the LA Rams, they are over the moon to make this trade, but I don't know, it just doesn't make too much sense for me from the Jaguars' perspective. Moving on here, we have one last trade to talk about, and it was two actually, both from the same team. The Green Bay Packers shipped away running back Ty Montgomery to the Baltimore Ravens and safety Clinton Dix to the Washington Redskins. Let's talk about first, DJ. Did you like the move here to send Clinton Dix to the Redskins?
From the Packers' perspective, no.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't get it. I feel like they should be in the position of the aggressor of getting players, not shipping them away.
Right.
Clinton Dix is arguably, if probably not even arguably, their best defensive player.
Yes.
I don't understand the move to get rid of him. Is the general manager just not believing in his team? What's the logic here?
Yeah, I really don't get it either, because you'd think that this Packers team, they're doing all right. I mean, maybe they're not the great team everybody thought they were, but they're in a very competitive division. They could easily come away with the title here, and you want a playmaker like Clinton Dix on your team. He's so good. And the Redskins, kudos to them. This is a massive move. The Redskins realized that, maybe they're the best team in the NFC East this year. They've been looking like it. They're 5-2. They've got a pretty big advantage over the other teams in that division. So why not make a blockbuster move? Grab Clinton Dix from the Packers, and with that, Pro Football Focus ranks the two best safeties in the league this year: Clinton Dix and DJ Swearinger. And now the Redskins have both of them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this move makes a lot of sense for the Redskins. But Francesco, what about you? Have you seen anything other than what we've been saying as to why the Packers would make this move? It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
If I can group the two together, there have been anonymous Packers players speaking, and the whole thing about the Ty Montgomery fumble. It seems to me like that locker room's going downhill. And with a year in which the NFC North is just so competitive, it seems to me like the Packers are deciding maybe this is not the best season. We put all of our sort of things into one basket and try to go out and win. They know that they're still going to have Aaron Rodgers. They're still going to have the absolute MVP of their team. Was going to be a free agent this offseason, and so I guess they decided. They guess that this just isn't their year, and they're trying to get something for him before he walks away for free. Ty Montgomery, that one was pretty clear. I don't think he was very happy there. I don't think they were very happy with him, and it's just it was good to let him go. One interesting thing about the trade, he and Landon Collins both played together at Alabama. When they both went to the pros, they both picked number 21 to honor which player?
Sean Taylor.
Famous Redskins safety Sean Taylor. I think that he should be very happy on the Redskins and following that legacy.
Yeah, I mean, I think is not complaining about it. He's going from, the Packers are third in the NFC North right now, and now going to a first-place team with playoff potential. Yeah, I mean, it's a great move for Clinton Dix. I'm sure he's ecstatic about it. But I guess, and you brought up a good point, Francesco, and I think this is the only reason that the Packers make this move is that they know he's a free agent at the end of this year regardless. They probably thought they weren't going to be able to sign him the money he wants. Might as well get something for him now while you can. But just short-term, it's like if you're trying to win a Super Bowl and that's the ultimate goal, this just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the right now. But I don't know. I personally, we could do a whole podcast about the Packers organization. I think they're fascinating and not the best way. I think Aaron Rodgers honestly has made a mistake in making that his career. I know he's drafted there and that's all he can really do, but I would have gotten out of there if I was Aaron Rodgers. But of course, he just signed a 5-year contract for $120 million or something like that. So he's not going anywhere unless he gets traded, which who knows? But
It's the wild world of the NFL.
stranger things can happen. But we're going to take our second break here on Fourth and Long. When we come back, we're going to talk about the firing of Hue Jackson as well as talk about the big matches from this past week in the NFL. So you are listening to Fourth and Long on Com Radio, and we will be right back. And we are back here on Fourth and Long. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, DJ Bauer and Francesco DeFalco. A lot of trades happening this past week in the NFL, but also a firing. Our first head coach has been officially axed this year, and it, of course, is the Browns, as if it would be anyone else. Unfortunately, Hue Jackson, his time has come to an end after horrible record. I believe the record is like 3-21 or something like that.
I can look up that fact for you just to see.
But either way, not a great look for Hue Jackson. Many people thought he should have been fired a long time ago. Along with Hue Jackson, the Browns got rid of their offensive coordinator, Todd Haley, promoted their running backs coach Kitchens as their new offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator Greg Williams will serve as the interim head coach. So turmoil in Cleveland, as if we would expect anything less. DJ, I'm going to go to you first. What was your reaction to the Hue Jackson firing?
It's not surprising. I mean, I guess the most surprising thing about it is why this year, when they're actually off to their best start in a long time, they're what, 2-5-1?
Yeah, I mean, if they had a field goal kicker, they might be like 4-2.
Right. I mean, they've done obviously better than they have in the past. You know, Hue Jackson with that, sterling 1-31 record over his first 2 years in Cleveland. And yeah, here's the final stat. His coaching career, spanning both the Browns and the Raiders, is 11-44-1,
Yikes.
which is absolutely atrocious. And that is his record of 3-36-1 with the Browns over 2.5 seasons is the second worst in NFL history among coaches that have coached 40 games.
Who is worse than that?
I'm not
I
sure.
can answer that one for you.
Okay.
Francesco's got the answer.
It was the Eagles coach, Burt Bell. How he was able to have a worse percentage than Hue Jackson was because he was also the Eagles owner.
Back in the
All right, there you go.
Back in the olden days of the 1940s.
DJ, you got some
and stuff.
competition for fun facts.
Look at him. He knows his history just as well as I do. Good job, Francesco.
But Francesco, you have any comments to add to this Hue Jackson situation? It seems pretty cut and dry to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how he was able to stay head coach of the Browns for that long. What I think is interesting is the firing of Todd Haley also. Mm-hmm. It seems to me like a large amount of the Browns' failures have been the dynamic between the two. And to me, it would have seemed like they would have kept one of them. I don't know what the firing of both of them signifies. Maybe it just means that, they want a complete rebuild of that staff. But, I don't know if the Todd Haley firing was the smartest move for the Browns. I definitely think Hue Jackson, come on, that one's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really agree with the Todd Haley firing either. I felt like their offense was better than it had been in years. And, I mean, Todd Haley's not a great coach, but he's not an awful coach either. So, I don't know. I think they're just looking to restart. But the last thing I'll say before we move on from this topic is, DJs, is this the right time to do it? It felt like, obviously, they didn't get the win. But why this week?
I feel I've got some expertise on Todd Haley being a Steelers fan.
You probably do. Yeah, give it to us.
So, good old Todd Haley ran screen pass after screen pass, it seemed like, here in Pittsburgh. So I didn't understand the hiring from Cleveland's perspective, but I also don't quite understand his firing. I agree with Francesco here that you've got Hue Jackson and Todd Haley. Fire one or the other, and I think Jackson is the more obvious choice in this case. We'll have to see how this offense plays with an interim offensive coordinator. It's not going to do anything under Greg Williams as the interim head coach since, he's been a defensive guy. And I'm curious to see, how Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb, both of these guys are rookies. What are they going to do with, completely new management? I'm worried about the Browns. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's a really good point, too. I think Baker's going to benefit from the fact that his new offensive coordinator is somebody that was already in the system. Like I said, he was the running backs coach. So that's going to help him a little bit. But long-term, you got to think they're going to bring in somebody else. He's going to have to learn a whole new playbook, which, I mean, it's only going to be his second year, so it's really not going to be that big of a deal. But certainly not the way you want to start off with your franchise quarterback having to learn 2 different playbooks in 2 different years. So would we expect anything less from the Browns? I'll let you answer that one. Coming up next, well, let's talk about some of the big games that happened from this past week. I want to start with the Sunday Night Football game between the Saints and the Vikings. Saints get a 30-20 win here. I thought it was a really fun matchup. DJ, what do you think?
It was a fun matchup. I liked that game. Well, actually, I also hated that game because Drew Brees got me 8 fantasy points, and because of that, I lost. So, love you, Drew, but you really dropped the ball there. But regardless, it was still a good game between who I think are ultimately going to end up being two of the better teams in the NFC this year. And, got to give credit to Adam Thielen again, keeping that streak alive, now up to 8 in a row in which he's caught 100 yards, tying Calvin Johnson for the record. So, kudos. Maybe we'll see this game again later in the postseason.
What about you, Francesco? What was your takeaway from this Saints-Vikings game?
Yeah, not only do I love watching games like this against two tough teams, but I love the fact that it was actually a game. It's great to see these teams who look good go out there and compete against each other and prove that that at least one of them isn't a total fluke. As DJ said, I was wrong. Last week's bold prediction, Thielen would not have 100-plus receiving yards this game. I was wrong. In fact, he had an amazing Moss-esque catch on a Saints defensive back. So that one sucks. But Saints-Vikings, I'm glad. It was good to see the Saints get the win also. I think they're the real deal this year, and I think the Vikings are going to be good too.
I think both teams are probably going to end up making the playoffs. Vikings a little bit more unsure of whether they win the division or most likely a wild card, I'd assume at this point. I think the Packers have a shot, although with the Clinton-Dix trade, I don't know. But either way, I expect to see both of those teams playing in January. Another game I want to talk about this week was one of the annual London games. The Philadelphia Eagles traveled to London for the first time in franchise history to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Eagles end up getting a 24-18 win here, a much-needed win for the Eagles and a heartbreaking loss for the Jaguars here. DJ, what did you see from this game?
Still a little bit shaky on both of these teams, I think. I do think Carson Wentz played a great game, though. 21 for 30, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns. Gotta give a lot of credit to Carson Wentz. He's bouncing back quietly, actually, I'd say, but he's been just as good as he was last season. I wonder why he's not getting the same attention, maybe because the Eagles haven't been as good. But they get a big win here. Maybe they get back on track. Got a little bit of catching up to do now with the Redskins ahead in the division at 5-2, but we still got plenty of season left to play.
What about you, Francesco? What did you see from this Eagles-Jaguars game?
Yeah, I think that this was a big game for both teams, as both were underperforming and not living up to expectations. And I think they were both trying to go out there and prove that they weren't on the bottom half of, the are they good, are they not scale. I think the Eagles should be happy that they were able to take on the Jaguars. It's not the toughest team as of recent, but it was a win that they needed. It's good to see Carson Wentz, out there playing great. I think the Eagles should have a little hope for their season. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough climb, but I think a game like this lets them know that there's still hope out there.
Yeah, I thought it was, certainly not the prettiest game by any standards, but definitely a huge game for both sides. Eagles came out with a much-needed win here, so I was happy to see that. Obviously, the Eagles are going on bye this week, so they will have time to readjust before they play the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football on November 11th, which should be a fun one. The next game I want to talk about from this past week was America's Game of the Week. It was the Green Bay Packers at the Los Angeles Rams, two of arguably the best teams in football. A lot of people were very excited about this game. Rams get a 29-27 win here to remain undefeated, go 8-0 on the year. DJ, obviously this is was a controversial game for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it came down to the last couple of minutes. Ty Montgomery, the former Packer now, fumbles the kickoff. And does not allow Aaron Rodgers to get a chance to get the football with 2 minutes left to go down the field and win the game. What else did you see from this game between two of the best teams in the NFL?
I'm hesitant to call the Packers one of the best teams in the NFL, but I do have to give them credit. They hung with the Rams this entire game, which is not easy to do. I mean, obviously the Rams may be the best team in the NFL, the only undefeated team left. So you got to give credit to the Packers. They were able to stay with them for the entire game, and unfortunately, the way this game ends is that Ty Montgomery makes a dumb mistake, fumbles the football instead of giving Aaron Rodgers the chance to do what he does best and come back and win this game for them. So I hope it's not like a killer for the Packers. I hope they're able to rebound and get back on track because they can be one of the better teams when they are, but we'll just have to find out and see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a killer for the Packers by any stretch of the imagination. You look at the teams in that division, obviously Minnesota and Chicago are pretty good. Detroit I'm not really too worried about. But when you have Aaron Rodgers on your team, I'm really not all too concerned. I think if they could easily win out with their divisional games at least for the rest of the year, and in that case, they're right in the thick of it for playoff contention and winning the division. But Francesco, what about you? What did you see from this Green Bay LA game?
If I was a Packers fan, I would have been crushed because when you're the Green Bay Packers, all you need is to just give Aaron Rodgers one last drive. And obviously Ty Montgomery could not do that for them. I don't think this is a killer for the Packers, but I will disagree with you on their divisional games for the rest of the season. The North is looking really good. I think that if they really wanted a chance to make moves in the playoffs, they really needed to win. The Rams are a tough team, but they needed to win games outside of their division because there's no guarantee. While they could do it, there's no guarantee that they can go out there and win any of those games against those teams, just with how well the rest of them have been playing. So it's not a killer for the Packers. It's definitely tough for them. And I think the Rams are actually kind of lucky that Ty Montgomery fumbled that because I'm not entirely sure that they would have won that game if it wasn't for that.
Oh, 100%. I think if you give Aaron Rodgers the ball in that spot, I mean, there's no reason for me to think that Aaron Rodgers doesn't go down the field and win that game for him. I mean, I think I've seen that happen more times than it hasn't. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, a huge mistake by Ty Montgomery cost him the game, cost him his career in Green Bay. So not a good look, but hey, he's got a fresh start now in Baltimore.
Playing third back after Alex Collins and Buck Allen, having fun time there, man.
Interesting enough, he's still wearing number 88.
Okay.
Which I don't really understand because I thought there was like a rule about like if you were a running back, you had to wear like numbers in between like 20 and 40.
I mean, I guess he's technically a wide receiver, maybe?
I don't get it. And then the last game I want to talk about from this past week was, although it wasn't a very exciting game, it was the Monday Night Football game between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. Patriots on the road for this one. Patriots, of course, got the win here, but not as in convincing fashion as I had thought or many had thought this would end up. My bold prediction for last week was that Tom Brady was going to break the single-game touchdown record and throw 8 touchdowns against this Bills defense. Doesn't even end up throwing one. So could not have had a colder take, but hey, that's what we do here in Fourth and Long. We just go for it. Doesn't always work out. But one thing I want to talk about specifically about this game. Bills come into this. Josh Allen, rookie quarterback, future of the franchise, he's hurt. You bring in Derek Anderson, veteran quarterback, who's come out of retirement, essentially just to be a backup quarterback. He gets thrown into this game. Doesn't play well. Ends up getting hurt. Now you got to put in Nathan Peterman, who is statistically the worst quarterback in NFL history to start more than one game. What are the Bills going to do at this point? DJ, I want to go for you. I personally feel like if any team should have traded for any quarterback this past week, the Bills should have been in that conversation looking for anybody on any roster that anybody was willing to move, because I don't know how you send the message to your fans, to your franchise, to anybody in Buffalo that you're looking to win or get better, and you're planning on starting Nathan Peterman next week. I don't understand why he's on the team. Listen, I don't want to talk lightly about like someone losing a job because that is how people feed their family, but the guy deserves to be fired. Like, I mean, there's nothing he has shown us and all the opportunities he's gotten that he's any credibility or any chance of succeeding in this league. Why are the Bills continuing to stick with him? And more importantly, why haven't the Bills gone out and tried to find a replacement?
I'm betting they're seriously missing Tyrod Taylor right now. Remember all the flack he got last year? Yeah, he was a god compared to what they've got right now.
He took him to the playoffs.
It's unbelievable, really, what the Bills are doing. I mean, they have no quarterback. They bring in Derek Anderson. Yeah, that's going to win you the game against the Patriots. But, I mean, seriously, they have, talent on the defense. Great guys there like Tre'Davious White and whatnot. Lorenzo Alexander maybe having the best.
Isn't bad.
Maybe Lorenzo Alexander having the best season of his career. And they've got some stuff on offense. I mean, the wide receivers aren't great, but they still got LaShawn McCoy. He looks all right. The offensive line's a little bit banged up, but it's looked better. Get a quarterback. My goodness. You want a spark on offense? Then go out there and get a QB. There are options.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. And you brought up a really interesting point with Tyrod Taylor, who, of course, is now the backup in Cleveland. How interesting would it be if we saw Tyrod Taylor return to Buffalo and Cleveland make out like kings here, who trade or
Right.
they get the guy
Yep.
and then ship him right back and get
Yep.
something in return.
Little bit too late now, Bills. Trade deadline just passed.
Yeah, someone's got to get cut. I don't know how Kaepernick doesn't have a job after watching
Right,
that
go
tape.
on. Call him up, dude. He's still unemployed. He has to be a better quarterback than Nathan Peterman, right?
It's not going to happen, but 100%. I'm a better quarterback than Nathan Peterman. Poor Nathan Peterman. Yeah, I'm sorry,
Feel bad
Peterman.
for
We're
you.
roasting you today, but you deserve it. Francesco, let me give you your take on this one. What's going on with the Bills?
The only thing I think I can use to justify what the Bills are doing is they're 2-6 right now. They were 2-5. The Patriots were 5-2. Just with your rookie that you're placing all of your future on hurt. Just why with some talent they have on their defense, and on their offense, they still have a little bit of a ways to go. Why give up picks? Why make trades? Why give up these things that can help build your team for a quarterback who's going to be there for one season before you bring back Josh Allen? Why do that? I get, it sucks as a fan and as someone who watches the NFL, it sucks to see a team just give up. And I think the Bills are still trying to go out there and win games. I don't think they're that desperate for a high pick considering they already have a quarterback. But, it seems like they're just saying, listen, we don't have the record to make the wild card. There's no way we're going to, take on the Patriots for the AFC East title. Why give up capital going into the future? And that's the only way I could justify it.
But listen, I think that makes sense to me. But at the same time, I don't know how you try and convince anyone you're trying to win games when you're going to start Nathan Peterman next week. If they trade a 7th round pick for somebody, anybody really is going to be better than this guy. I feel like it doesn't make any. Who's the backup to Nathan Peterman? Why is that guy in the league? That's a better question I have. I don't know what the Bills are doing right now. It's a mystery to me. Before I get off of them, because I'm just done talking about the Bills.
You know what? I
What?
got to give credit to the Bills fans. They stay faithful. The Bills Mafia. They continue to do what they do, break through tables. They're not going to let this get them down. Good on you, Bills Mafia. One of the best fan bases in the NFL. I'll say it right there.
I don't even know if half the Bills fans know that they're cheering for the Bills. I think they're just there to watch a football game. They're more than likely cheering for their opposing team than they are the Bills. I don't know. But DJ, yes or no question, do the Bills have the number 1 overall pick?
I'm going to say no, just because they've got 2 wins, and I'm not sure that the 49ers or Giants or Raiders are going to get a second win. One of them has to get a second win because the Raiders and Niners are playing each other this week, but it's not looking good for the Bills. I think a top 5 pick is very likely.
What about you, Francesco? Yes or no? Do the Bills have the number 1 overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft?
Yeah, same as DJ. The Bills, out of those 4 teams that he was just talking about, probably the most likely to win another game, except for the fact that not only do the Niners and Raiders play each other this week, but next week the Giants and the Niners play each other. So there's definitely going to be a few more wins in those 3 teams, but I think it breaks my heart to say that the Giants and those other 2 teams, definitely the worst in the league right now. It's just going to be competition between the 3 of them for who gets the first.
I'm putting it on the record right now.
I'm here.
Mark it down. We will be back. 2019 Buffalo Bills, first overall pick in this year's draft. I'm calling my shot right now.
Who do they take? Ed Oliver?
It's not going to be
a position that they don't need?
Nick Bosa. It doesn't help them offensively, but you take the best player in the draft, right?
If I'm the Bills, I'm trading down. I'm taking that first pick. There's going to be teams looking for Bosa and Oliver. I'm trading down, not even that low, just few spots below, getting some more stuff, taking another sick guy. Because, while this draft class isn't that deep, there are a couple guys there that I think that could benefit any team. So I would do that if I were the Bills.
Hey, if you want to trade LaShawn, Benny Snell's probably
I was surprised he didn't get traded. But, I guess he's going to factor into their future plans. I don't know. He seemed like the perfect amount of trade bait to me, though. So, I don't know. But we're going to take another last break here. When we come back, we're going to give our predictions for all the games for next week as well as our bold predictions. So you are listening to 4th and Long on Com Radio, and we will be right back.
Welcome back to 4th and Long with DJ Bauer and Jason Marcus on Com Radio.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Fourth and Long on Com Radio. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, GJ Bauer and Francesco DeFalco. We are going to go through all the games for Week 9 in the NFL, and we'll start with our Thursday night matchup. It is the Bay Area battle between the Oakland Raiders at the San Francisco 49ers. Both teams looking to get a win here. Both teams desperately need it to build momentum for the rest of the season. Obviously, Oakland has had a lot of struggles, both offensive and defensively, trading Amari Cooper. Did not sign in Khalil Mack in the offseason. John Gruden has not looked like anything close to what the organization has hoped. San Francisco lost Jimmy Garoppolo to a season-ending ACL injury early in the year. Quarterback C.J. Beathard has filled in. Hasn't looked great, but hasn't looked terrible either. So a not too exciting matchup for Thursday night, but never know. It could be an exciting one. DJ, I'm going to start with you. Who out of these two teams walks away with the win and why?
All right, well, this is a sentence I never thought I'd say. The winner of this game may depend on whether or not C.J. Beathard is healthy.
Yeah, I never thought you'd say that either.
Because, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo has been the guy for San Fran, but Beathard hasn't been bad. I mean, as far as backups go, he's all right. It's a shame that a lot of the team there hasn't been around to support him. And, he didn't have a great game last week against Arizona or anything, but I still kind of like him. And if he's healthy for this, then all right, I'll give the Niners the win.
Francesco, what about you? Raiders, 49ers, who gets the win?
The question we should be asking is, does either team want to win this game?
That's a very good question. I don't know.
I think, it's obviously a lost season for both of them. The one thing to note, though, is that if Beathard is healthy and playing, he's really the only person who has something to gain from the rest of this season, because he's the only one who's probably not going to have, definitely not going to have his job back come next season when Garoppolo's healthy. So, both sides may, care less about who wins. Beathard's going to be the one who's going out there and trying to prove something. So I'm going to give this one to the 49ers.
I'm going to go 3 for 3 on this one and say the 49ers win. I think C.J. Beathard is the best player on the actually, I don't know. I guess I like Derek Carr more than I like C.J. Beathard, but I think from a team perspective, I don't know. I just feel like the 49ers have been playing better. So no real logic to this one. I'm just going with the 49ers just because I think on tape they've been looking a lot better.
Nothing wrong with a gut feeling.
Yeah. Up next, we have the Atlanta Falcons at the Washington Redskins. Obviously, the Washington Redskins on top of the NFC East right now. This is an interesting matchup to me because on paper, the Falcons should be a lot better than the record tells them that they are. They still have an explosive and dynamic offense here, but the Redskins, of course, are the best team in the NFC East as of right now. So could be an upset brewing, but DJ, what do you think is going to happen?
This is an interesting game for sure. I think a lot of it depends on what the Falcons' defense does, because I can trust the Falcons' offense to get points. That's what they usually do. But I like to quote, I don't remember who said it. It was on Reddit. Somebody said, you want Alex Smith to score you, 10 points to win the game, he'll get 20. You want him to score you, he needs to score 30 points to win the game, he'll get 20. So this depends on what the Falcons' defense does, I think. If they are able to somehow stop that offense, then I like them. I like the Falcons to go into Washington and come away with a win. If they don't, then I see the Skins winning it. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's go Falcons. Take the road win here.
All right, Francesco, what about you? Matt Ryan at Washington. Who gets the win?
I would have said, a couple days ago, I don't think that the Redskins had enough depth on their secondary to hold off all these Falcons receivers. But, hey, guess you just don't join them. Ha-ha, Clinton Dix. So, I don't know if he's going to be that big of a game changer. But, the Falcons', biggest strength is that receiving core.
Yeah.
And, maybe it won't be Ha-Ha's individual play, but I think just the fact that he's in that secondary will help booster all the other players. So, I think I might have to give this one to the Redskins.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think it might be pretty close. But in the end, I'm going to give it to the Redskins. They seem to just look better both on offense and on defense right now. So I'm going to go with the Redskins on this one, but should be a fun game to watch. It should be a fun, high-scoring game. Up next, we have the Detroit Lions at the Minnesota Vikings. The Lions' first games without Golden Tate. Should be a big day for Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones Jr. DJ, who's going to win?
All right, let's go a little weird here. Let's pick the Lions. Let's do an upset pick.
Okay.
The Lions have played the Vikings very well in recent history. And although I do think that the Vikings are going to end up being one of the better teams in the NFC this year, I don't think they're the same team that they were last year. And Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones are going to come out hungry in this game with Golden Tate gone. And I like Matthew Stafford to feed them the ball a lot and get a win on the road.
What about you, Francesco? Detroit Lions at the Minnesota Vikings.
I'll save an upset for another game. I think this one, is going to be the Vikings. Lions look good. The Vikings, they're going to be, angry after that Saints loss. And I just think they're too well-rounded of a team to have. I think Minnesota's too well-rounded to have Detroit, who just lost one of their main guys, go in and find a way so quickly to game plan. I think that this is going to be, while Detroit isn't necessarily a lot worse without Tate, it's going to take, a little bit of time for them to figure it out. And I just think that Minnesota's just too well-rounded for them to get a win here, right after that. So I'm going Minnesota.
I'm going Minnesota as well here. I like Kirk Cousins. I think the offense and Adam Thielen has been firing on all cylinders. I'm looking for them to come away with a big win here over the Detroit Lions. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. DJ, one of the best rivalries in football, and we get another chapter here. Steelers obviously coming off a win against Cleveland. Do they continue the momentum?
I'm going to say yes. Winners of 3 straight. I think this is going to be a different story than that home game they played Baltimore against this year and then had a stinker, lost 26-14. But I noticed a trend. Get James Conner the ball. These last 3 games they have won, he has gotten 100 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Let's say he does it again, and the Steelers come away with another W.
What about you, Francesco? Steelers at the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one to the Steelers because I think at this point it's pretty clear. Just give James Conner the ball.
Yeah.
They were a little wishy-washy with that, a few weeks back, but now they just realize that's how we got to win these games. So I think they're just going to do that, give him as many carries as he needs, and they're going to pull away with a win.
Yeah, I agree. 3 for 3. Pittsburgh's going to come into Baltimore and get a big win here. Expect James Conner to have a huge day, and really not much more to it than that. I think the Ravens are not as good as the record says they are. I expect them to be in the basement of the AFC North by the end of this. They'll compete with Cleveland.
Maybe a bold pick right there. We'll see.
We'll see. Speaking of bold picks, Kansas City Chiefs at the Cleveland Browns. How bold are you feeling right now, DJ?
I'm not feeling too bold on this one. I got to go with Mahomes and company. They're still rolling. I mean, the only loss that they have on the year is that 3-point loss in New England. Just came off a nice win against the Broncos at home. Yeah, they're going to go into Cleveland and win.
What about you, Francesco? Chiefs at the Browns. Does Baker Mayfield have any magic in him?
Yeah, the Chiefs, they went through the trade deadline not picking up any, key defensive players that they could add because that was looking like a little bit of their weak spot. But, I mean, guess what? Right after that, they get to play a team that just fired their head coach and offensive coordinator. So I don't think that this is going to be a tough one for the Chiefs at all. Browns, they're not as bad as they have been in the past, but they're not beating the Chiefs in this one.
You know what, guys? I'm picking the Browns.
Wow.
I'm picking the Browns to lose this game, and
you had us there.
I don't think it's even close.
You had us there.
No, the Browns are not going to win this game. I apologize to all Cleveland fans, but really, you should go to this game just to enjoy any discounted beer that they might be selling because that's the only reason I would want to go. Actually, that's not true. Pat Mahomes would be cool to see in person in that offense, but no, this is not going to be close. I don't
want
see
to be part of the dog pound.
This. Yeah, believe it or not, no. But no, Chiefs are going to win this one handedly. New York Jets at the Miami Dolphins. DJ, who you got?
This game's boring.
It really is.
It's against 2 teams that I don't think are going to go anywhere in the AFC.
No. They're literally the definition of the 2 average teams.
Right. I guess the Dolphins just because they beat the Jets last time, and that was in New York, so I guess get the home win this time.
What about you, Francesco? Jets at Dolphins?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that this one's kind of a snooze fest. The one thing I could really see happening that would make this game mildly interesting is another good game from Brock Osweiler. So, I mean, I'm thinking that that's more likely than – I think Brock Osweiler playing well is a little bit more likely than Sam Darnold playing well at this point. So, I'm going to give it to the Dolphins on this one.
You know what? I'm going to actually disagree. I'm going the Jets to get the win here. I think Sam Darnold has a statement game, or at least he really needs one. So I'm going to say he gets it here. I know Brock Osweiler has been playing really well, but
October will be over by the time this game is played.
That's right. So Brovember ain't a thing. So sorry. Sam Darnold and Jets get a big road win here. Chicago Bears at the Buffalo Bills. DJ, who you got?
Bears.
Yeah.
Do I need to say anything else?
No, you don't, Francesco. What about you?
I mean, I'll say more. Just the Bears haven't looked like themselves recently, I guess. I mean, they got a nice win against the Jets, so I'll give them credit there. But it's the Bills.
What about you, Francesco? Bears, Bills.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say this. The Bears held Sam Darnold to, off the top of my head, I think 153 yards when they were playing each other.
Let's double check that stat. Make sure it
Let's see if I'm right.
153.
Let's go.
Off the head. Well done, sir.
Yeah, I'm just very scared for who is ever playing a quarterback for the Bills in this game because I don't think they're going to do anything against this Chicago secondary. So I'm giving it to the Bears by a landslide.
I got 4 words for you. Khalil Mack, Nathan Peterman. We're going the Bills. I mean, we're going the Bears.
That's it, folks.
NFC South matchup here, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Carolina Panthers. One team has been on a roll, one team has not. So, DJ, does the trend continue?
You know what? Here's another upset for you. Fitzmagic does it again.
Interesting.
Coming off the bench, Jameis Winston not the answer anymore. Let's see Fitzmagic do what he does best, which is come off the bench when you don't expect him to, and then just have a fantastic game. And because of that trend has happened so often, I'm going to say it happens again, and the Bucs get a road win.
What about you, Francesco? Who gets the win here?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree for the exact same reasons. They benched Jameis last week. They go, Ryan Fitzpatrick, let's see what you could do. He plays pretty well. This game coming up, all right, Fitzpatrick, let's see how you do as a starter. He's going to play great. The week after, all right, you're the starter now for the rest of the season, and then that's when it all goes downhill. But this game, I'm giving it to the Bucs because I think Fitzpatrick can actually do something now, right now.
Last week, the Carolina Panthers put up 42 points on the best defense in the NFL. I'm going Carolina again here. I think Fitzpatrick might have a very good day. I don't think it's going to be enough to beat the Panthers. I think they're playing too good right now to give them the loss, especially at home. LA Chargers at the Seattle Seahawks. DJ, who do you have?
This is going to be one of those secretly good games of the NFL this week because the Chargers are a good team and the Seahawks are a surprisingly good team. I think that if they keep playing it the way they're playing right now, they will get a wild card in the tricky NFC. And I'd like them to win here. Let's give the home win to the Hawks.
What about you, Francesco?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be honest here, I'm not entirely sure how these teams are going to play against each other. You know, it's one of those, you know, like you said, a surprisingly good game. It's one of those games that you don't really expect there to be, you know, it to be like that interesting. And I think it's going to be. I think that, you know, 12th man's going to step up and give the Seahawks the home win in this one.
I'm going Chargers here, but I think it has a lot to do on whether or not Melvin Gordon plays. I think if Melvin Gordon is active, he's going to have a huge day for the Chargers and lead them to a win. If not, it could be a toss-up. But for now, I'm going to say he plays, and I think the Chargers are going to get a big road win here at Seattle. Houston Texans at the Denver Broncos. Interesting to note that this will be Demaryius Thomas's first game as a Texan, and he doesn't even have to physically move because he literally is staying in Denver for the time being. So, interesting game here, but DJ, who's going to get the win?
I'm picking the Texans. I know Will Fuller is a bad loss, but they've got other pieces there. I mean, Lamar Miller has looked surprisingly good. He suddenly turned it on for some reason. If this offense continues to roll the way that it has, I don't see any reason why they don't extend that win streak to 6.
What about you, Francesco?
Yeah, I'm giving it to the Texans, too. You know, would I rather have Will Fuller? I don't know, but Deshaun Watson should be very happy with the toys that he gets to play with now following Will Fuller's injury. I mean, Denver Broncos, they have 3 wins on the season. Not horrible compared to other teams, but I don't think they're doing much, especially with Case Keenum as their quarterback. So I'm just going to give it to the Texans.
I'm also going Houston on this one, too. I like the offense of the Texans better, although the Broncos have a good defense, so it could be a close one here. But I'm going to say Deshaun Watson balls out, and Demaryius Thomas has a great first game as a Texan, and the Texans get a win here. Up next, we have the LA Rams at the New Orleans Saints. NFL game of the week once again for the Rams. Should be a good one. DJ, who's going to win?
Game of the year, maybe.
Game of the year.
Depends on what happens.
Potential NFC championship.
Sometimes
preview.
it's never turned out like that, but we'll see what happens. I think this is going to be a good game, especially when you factor in that the Saints are at home and Drew Brees and that team is always so good at home. But the Rams have just looked unstoppable. I mean, I know that the Packers played a good game against them this year. I think that the Rams have realized, all right, we can't let that happen again. We got to, step up our game, and so they go into New Orleans and they stay undefeated.
What about you, Francesco? Who gets the big win here?
I'm glad I saved my upset. I'm giving this one to the Saints. The Los Angeles Rams, they've got a tough gauntlet ahead of them. And I know not every team has Aaron Rodgers, but if it wasn't for one play, if it wasn't for that fumble, I think the Rams would have lost. I think the Saints know that, and they're going to try to capitalize on that. I wouldn't say the Saints are better than the Rams, but I think that this is a situation in which, the little bit of a worse team could get a win here. So I'm giving this one to the Saints at home.
I'm going with the Rams on this one. I think they stay undefeated. For as good as the Saints are, they've looked sloppy at times. The Rams haven't slowed down at all year, so I'm going to go with the Rams to get a big win here. Not a lot of time left. We have 2 games and our bold predictions. So real quick, I know it's a big matchup, Sunday Night Football, Packers at Patriots, but who wins, DJ?
Patriots look like the better team, and I think they're going to prove it.
What about you, Francesco?
Yeah,
Packers?
I'm giving this one to the Patriots also.
I'm going Aaron Rodgers here to get a big win for the Packers. I never doubt Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not going to do it again this time. And Monday Night Football, Tennessee Titans at the Dallas Cowboys. DJ, who's going to get the win?
I'm picking the Cowboys, but I hate that the Cowboys are in prime time again.
I know.
Can we please stop with this? I know they're America's team, but half their games are in prime time. Knock it off, NFL.
What about you?
Yeah, I hate that this is the only game I can watch on Monday night. But, Dallas Cowboys, one thing to note, Sean Lee came back last week, was on bye, this current week, and will be playing again against the Titans. He's a piece that they were missing, so I think that, having him back will help them win this game.
I don't like either of these teams long term. I think this is going to be a boring and low-scoring game, but ultimately I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys here. I think if Ezekiel Elliott's healthy, he's going to have a great day, and he'll be the deciding factor here. So that is it for our picks for Week 9 in the NFL. But before we go, we got to give our bold predictions because it is 4th and long, and on 4th and long, we just go for it. So, DJ, give me your bold prediction for Week 9.
All right, let's get absolutely wacky here.
All right, absolutely wacky. Here we go.
We're going back to the Bay Area for this one. With
Back to the Bay.
Tomorrow night's game, San Francisco and Oakland. George Kittle. I love that man. Great tight end, and he's proved it all year long. Had a little bit of a down game against Arizona last week. This week, George Kittle rebounds and grabs 4 touchdowns from C.J. Beathard in a San Francisco 49ers win.
All right, 4 touchdowns for George Kittle, says DJ. Francesco, what about you? What's your bold prediction?
I will say this. Ravens, Steelers. Just throwing it out there. Ty Montgomery scoring a touchdown.
Okay, and his first game as a Raven.
That's bold.
Yeah, right?
He's going to be mad. He's, 3rd on the depth chart, right?
Yeah.
I think he's going to go out there, and I think he's going to score at least 1.
All right, for my bold prediction, we are going to the Kansas City Chiefs and Cleveland Browns game. My bold prediction for this week is not stat-based. I don't think Patrick Mahomes plays 1 snap in the second half. I think he's benched by the end of the first half here.
Goodness.
So that is my bold prediction for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening to 4th and Long. We will be back next week, Wednesday at 6 p.m. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and YouTube and SoundCloud for more of our episodes and more content. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back next week. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.